Alright, so today we're gonna talk about 5 simple things you need to understand in order to make your goals seem so easy to achieve that it will make you feel like you have a freaking cheat code. You can call these hacks, systems, or frameworks. They don't take much time to set up, but they will make it way more likely that you actually get what you want. If you already know and operate according to these 5 things, then why did you click on this video? But chances are you don't, and that you are actually missing out. So in this video, I'm gonna go through how our brain understands and deals with goal setting, the best frameworks for setting goals, understanding time constraints, the good old systems versus goals, and best practices for execution. And by the end of it, I will walk you through a clear example of how my goals actually look like. Hey there! I'm Alex, the creative director trying to use this platform as a public journal for my self-improvement journey, because I'm obsessed with leveling up. I'm actually just a few steps in, but I want to document the whole process. Let's go. So this video is actually the culmination of work I've been putting in for the past few weeks, because I started with a past year review. That's the first one, that's the foundation. Then discovered my values to understand myself better and know how to change. And now I'm finalizing with goals, because this is the logical next step, since these are gonna be based on my values. And to be honest, I highly recommend you do the same and go watch those 2 videos, go through the exercises, because that's how you set a solid foundation for this goal setting exercise. But why do you need an actual list of goals, you may wonder, right? And the answer is actually quite simple. And it's because your brain is really good at having ideas and coming up with ideas all the time, but it's actually also really good at forgetting these ideas. And if you don't write them down, they're gonna be gone. They're gonna be blurry. So essentially, the second you write them down, they become still. They become like a map you can follow. Because like the saying goes, if you have a goal that's not written down, that's just a wish. So writing down that list of goals is actually the very first action you should take to turn a messy thought into a real-world result. In fact, research shows that actually writing your goals down increases your chances of hitting them by 42%. That's basically the easiest win you'll ever get. So let's dive right into the theory behind successful goal setting. This is actually hack number 1, because understanding the neuroscience will help make the difference between unachievable and achievable goals. You need to work together with your brain or operating system, not against it. Here's the interesting mechanisms. First one, and by far the most important one, is understanding cognitive load. And this is essentially the fact that the brain doesn't have the capacity to handle multiple things all at once. What this essentially says is that trying to manage 10 new habits all at once, it's just like trying to learn 10 new languages, for example, all at once. It's not impossible, but most likely you're gonna burn out at some point and then give up. So like I said, understanding that you cannot have too much on your plate all at once will make the difference between you hitting or missing your goals, because this is the most important aspect of all of this. This concept was actually summarized perfectly by Bruce Lee at some point, because he said, "I do not fear the man who practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the one who practiced 1 kick 10,000 times." But there are actually other interesting things happening in our brains. For example, the narrow view effect. So by narrowing your visual focus on a target that's right in front of you, means 17% lower perceived effort and a 23% faster movement. And then there's this 85% rule, which means that optimal learning happens when you actually fail 15% of the time, because if you're successful 100% of the time, there's no growth. What you also need to understand that every single time you hit one of your goals, you have a dopamine response in your brain. And dopamine, as we all know, is the feel-good hormone. And that tells us actually that if you have a bigger goal and you break it down into smaller milestones along the way, you will get this dopamine response every single time you hit one of those milestones. So essentially, small wins keep your dopamine baseline high and it will keep you going. And then there's this other thing people usually do when they're trying to achieve their goals, and they're called vision boards. And I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. But I'm gonna do something called foreshadowing failure, which means that you kind of have to visualize what happens if you fail, if you actually fail your goals. So the negative aspects of not having those goals or not achieving those goals. Turns out that this actually doubles your probability of success. But enough nerdiness for today. Let's see what kind of exercises and frameworks are usually really successful in terms of setting goals. But before actually going into the exercises themselves, there's two things you need to understand first. First one is actually about specificity and difficulty, because do your best goals are actually a recipe for being just mediocre. On the other hand, really ambitious goals drive focus, energy, and strategy arousal. And the other thing you need to understand is that there are actually two types of goals. The first one is called a learning goal and is actually used when you have a new task, because you need to find a way to learn. And then for the already established tasks, you need to set a performance goal, so you hit that number. And now that you know this, let's see the two frameworks that work really great together in setting and achieving those goals. But before you start actually writing your goals down on paper, you need to put them through an acid test. And that basically says that you have to ask two questions. Am I able to, and am I willing to? If the answer to both of those questions is no, then you don't have a goal. Now, the first framework is called the OKRs, objectives and key results. And this is used to set the big picture, the strategy. For the objective, the what, the actual goal itself, you need to make it inspirational and concrete. And for the key results, the how, you need to make this measurable and aggressive. The second framework is called SMART goals, and it's actually another acronym because it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. This is essentially the precision of daily execution. But knowing all of that is just actually half of the story, because for the third hack, you have to understand that there are time constraints around goals, and this is gonna make them or break them. So what exactly is this subtractive logic? And it's essentially saying that you have a limited amount of time in one day. Your day is already full, whether you like it or not, because you are doing something with your time, whether it's Netflix or doom scrolling or whatever. You are doing something. So you can't just add a new goal or a behavior, you have to kind of swap it with an old one. So the best way to understand how you're spending your time is actually to do something that I call a 168-hour audit that looks at the past 7 days, every single hour of the past 7 days, to understand where your time goes. And then you're just gonna have to highlight the time slot that doesn't do you any good or that doesn't get you any closer to your goals, and then swap it with a new habit that will actually get you there, that will actually help you achieve your goals. And then let's address the goals versus systems, because if you've been around goals, or if you know something about this or did any research online at some point, you know that this came up. Now, I personally believe that these are not competing with each other. It doesn't have to be goals versus systems. In my view, it has to be goals and systems, or goals together with systems. So actually for hack number 4, I did something kind of corny and named it myself, and I call it Systems Sustain Goals. This is actually the core, the engine that makes goals work. Let me explain. So I think about goals together with systems, and it's because goals are used to set a direction so you know where to go, but systems are actually the vessel, the spaceship that's gonna get you there. It's also important to understand that you can actually achieve a goal without a system behind it, but that might not be the best way to get to that goal, to achieve that goal. Let's take weight loss, for example. Reaching a 30-kilogram weight loss is a milestone, but the system built to get there will make the next goal, a six-pack for example, feel inevitable. Otherwise, I can just starve myself like a freaking idiot, just like I did in the past, without thinking of sustainable systems. Then also, goals are gonna be easier to achieve if you take up on a new identity. So basically, you're not running a marathon, you are a runner. Every rep that you're gonna put in is a vote for your new operating system, a vote for your new self. You have to understand that goals are just data points on a trend line, not finish lines. You outgrow a goal, but you're keeping the system. And now that you kind of understand how goals and systems are supposed to work together, let's go over some best practices when it comes to actual execution on a daily basis. This next step, number 5, is actually the setup you need in order to make your goals feel easy. So the first concept in making sure that you're gonna set yourself up for success when it comes to execution is called the 2-minute rule. And this basically talks about scaling your new habit down until it's too easy to say no. It's about movement beating perfection. And I actually have a short story for you, because when I started going to the gym 3 years ago, I did this kind of unconsciously because I promised myself that I was gonna go there no matter what. Be present in the gym for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And if I didn't feel like it, then I would just go home. Guess how many times I was there for only 5 minutes? That's right, 0. So yeah, basically making it so easy that you cannot say no will just work. The second concept here is about environmental design, and it basically says that willpower is for people with bad room design. So basically make good habits easy to reach and obvious right in front of you, and make bad habits invisible. Just don't buy those sweets that you keep in the cupboard, because you are gonna see them and you will be tempted. And then the next concept talks about upper bounds, and it's essentially saying that you have to set a ceiling as well for the work that you do, so you prevent burnout. So this basically sits on the other end of the 2-minute rule that I mentioned above, because if you do much more than you intend to do, you will burn out at some point. So the last concept here is the never miss it twice concept, and it's essentially what it says it is. Don't miss 2 days in a row. It's okay, everyone makes mistakes, but don't just say, oh, okay, yeah, I fucked up, and then you punish yourself and do the same the next day. You just have to basically get back on track as soon as possible, and that's the next day. That's this rule. Perfect. Now let's see a clear example. I'm gonna show you how my goals look like. So like I said, this makes sense now because I already did the critical foundational work required to do this in the past few weeks. And that's basically the 2 videos that I did before this, one that's covering the past year review and the other one that's covering your values, because my goals are based on my personal values. For me, I decided that 3 goals are gonna be the sweet spot for this year, because I don't want to take on too much, like I said. And actually, if I'm being like really honest with myself, these 3 goals that I have can actually be condensed into 2. So just 2 goals. And I want to mention once again that I use the combination of the OKRs and SMART goals. OKRs, objectives, and key results, because these are going to define the strategy. This is going to be the what and the why behind my goals. And then SMART goals define the actual execution, the when and how. So a critical main value for me is one that I call capability by health. Hey, yeah, so it's Editing Alex here, and I wanted to do a quick insert because my intention was to go through a whole goal with you and take it line by line so I can tell you exactly what it is and why it's there, but it would have taken way too long. So instead, I'm just gonna give you the screenshots and you're just gonna have to pause the video and, you know, see for yourself. That's it. And now that you have this as clear examples, I hope that you're inspired to take action as well. You are gonna have to put in some work to get this done, but in the end they will make so much sense together that you wish you knew all of these secrets, hacks years ago. Plus, like I said, writing down your goals, actually taking the pen and paper and writing them down, is a win in and of itself. It's a step forward. It's execution rather than procrastination. And now that you are gonna go write down your goals, I'm gonna take the next moments for the weekly wins and lessons update. So what is this exactly? It's a section that I'm gonna do moving forward every single week, because I'm essentially experimenting with different aspects of this whole journey that I'm on, and I wanna tell you what works and what doesn't. Let's take the lessons first. You know, give me the bad news first. So the first one would be that I kind of failed keeping the promise to myself to upload once a week. since the beginning of this year. The second one is actually a bit sad for me because last week, because I had to put in so much work for the past video, I skipped the gym entirely. Like, I was in front of my PC every single hour of that week, and that's way too much. And then the third one is actually a bit more complicated because I feel like I kinda procrastinated with these 3 videos that I did. So except for the first one, this is gonna be the 4th video that I'm gonna have on my channel. But I feel like I procrastinated somehow and took on way too much and kinda tried to scratch my left ear with the right hand over my head because I kinda lost myself into too much detail. And you know, like, I don't want to be mean to me, but probably nobody cares, at least now when I'm, you know, just starting out. So the lesson here would be for me to just take it easy, take it down a notch, and just stop being a perfectionist. Once again, I have to remind myself constantly to stop being a perfectionist. And to finish up this section on a positive note, I actually have 2 wins. For the first win, I'm gonna let the following clips do it justice. So yeah, today I'm gonna travel back in time because it snowed quite a lot here in Copenhagen, and I'm just gonna use the snow to go back in my childhood.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. I've been on the flex since flex on. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shady, my bros raw. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Throw shade, that's a no, 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 no. Go high, go low, low, low. Like spinning in a 644. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
It's been fun feeling like a child again, and you know, just the nostalgia of doing that thing. Wow, amazing. And for the second win is actually a small one, but it's, you know, still a win. It's the fact that I started reading again before bed, even though it's just a few pages for now. But yeah, I started reading, so that's another win. I'm gonna try to keep this up. So yeah, let's see how this is gonna go moving forward, especially now that I have written down my goals. But what I would really love to know is that you are gonna go set up your goals as well. But before doing that, I highly recommend you go check out this video where I break down how I found my values, because you are gonna go find your goals, define your goals based on your values. Go know yourself. And remember, it's not that serious. Go know yourself sounds like something different. Because if I put a beeping sound, like go yourself, see how that sounds like? Sorry about that. Yes!